feel about it, and I recognize that. So do we want to shoot for the, I shouldn't say shoot for the, do we want to take what we feel is the best path for the town from a financial standpoint and have it be a pay-as-you-go with a fallback of coming back 15 days later with splitting it? Then that's one strategy. Another strategy is say, okay, you know, based on history, is this, how much of a chance does this have to pass? Should we just go in with the fallback, splitting it, and try to get that passed? We have to decide that.
What do you think?
It's probably not even an issue, but if you're on a fixed income and you're no longer employed, this is going to look different to that person than it is to somebody who's already inherited a shitload of money or is on a pension where they don't have to worry while they're still working. It's a whole different ballgame. But you have to bring those things into it also.
Absolutely has a bearing. So it's not just our personal situations, it's what's the situation of the entire community. Do we even have demographics on our residents? And I don't mean individually, okay? I mean as an overall.
I don't think so.
X% of our residents are this age and above or retired. X percentage of our residents are minors below 18. 18 to 40, 40 to 65, do we even have demographics like that?
My bet says no.
Okay, so here's just a little tidbit, and I'm gonna leave this in. There's explanation of property tax increase due to exceeding the levy. Last year, the per thousand value that was proposed was $2.72 a thousand. So it's 4 cents more per thousand than what was proposed last year.
And the reason that it's 67% instead of 43 or 45 is because now it's based on the 401, not the 470.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that would have to be explained.
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a.
So really, if you look at it, it's kind of like last year.
It's 4 cents per thousand more.
Right. So really, that, they went for what, a 46?
It
43, 45, something
doesn't have that.
They went for the 43.6 last year?
They wanted $150,000 of the increase.
It's basically 43, 44%, just like last year.
I mean,
It's the same thing.
when you start talking aggregate numbers of what the budget is and what the net pay out by the resident is going to be, if 250 is funded via taxes, you're talking 4 cents per thousand.
No,
And keep in mind, there will be people out there that say, I don't care about roads.
Oh, yeah,
I had one tell me that tonight.
Right.
She said, I don't care about roads. I hear you talking about raising the tax levy to cover roads. And she said, I don't care about roads.
The
She said,
fundamental,
my road's fine.
yeah, the fundamental problem is that
that's
$83,000 was
see some of
backfilled into this budget this year to make it balance, and $50,000 worth of true blue expenses were cut out to make it balance. I mean, we don't have another 83 grand to patch a hole in budget that was there last year, and we can't, in my own mind, we can't write down a number that makes it balance just for the sake of making it
I'm not
balance.
making that argument. I'm just saying that there's gonna be a percent of our constituents that have that feeling.
well, okay, so the big thing is everybody needs to be educated thoroughly on how this is gonna affect them. They need to know that really it's approximately the same amount within a point probably of what they were asking for last year. Having said that, and you're talking about what somebody said to you, last year, there's people that came out of that meeting that were more confused than when they went in.
Sure.
And there were people that I talked to, that let's just say my taxes was $5,000, we're talking a 43% increase. They thought it was 40% of 5,000 it was going up.
No.
Well, you and I know that, Bonnie, but I'm telling you, people thought, oh, it's gonna go up $2,000.
Right, because there was a lot of false information that was spread prior to that meeting to people that had no idea, that had never been to a meeting.
And
So
the
there were,
presentation at the meeting
well,
fell way short of explaining what that.
but there were a lot
that
of angry people at that meeting that had never, ever been to a meeting before, that had preconceived notions about the board last year. That
Let's not get into a
But I'm
political
just saying that that's
And
one reason why
amazingly,
that,
11 months later, we're still in the same.
I know, but that's one reason why that, I mean, we're talking, last year we were talking fire protection, which everybody is concerned about. This year we're talking roads, and unless you live on that road that needs to be done, I'm gonna tell you, you're gonna get some pushback.
Some will get some pushback,
Yeah.
I don't think everybody has that attitude.
And there may not be the angry
And
crowd
let's
there
leave-
this year that
And
there
I'd
was.
like to leave
So
politics
here's-
out of this,
Here's the other.
because there's politics on both sides.
Mhm.
So let's just leave politics out of it.
Right.
I mean, what's done is done.
I mean, we can play the numbers game too and say we're not gonna spend any money on any road maintenance. Good luck driving in the winter and good luck not
I said
mowing the
earlier.
edge of the road, because it's conceivably the same amount of money.
I would
So-
project that we're gonna spend more time explaining the numbers, explaining the rationale, than we are actually going through the numbers and voting.
But if you go back a step, and whatever he's gonna present verbally, if you have a handout that shows it clearly, and
We'll
give that
charts
ahead
and
of time,
handouts and all that.
that's gonna make a huge difference too. Because it's gotta be something that a grade school person can read. If you don't do that, you're not gonna get anywhere. That's so, anytime you give a speech, you should do that, put it in the hands of a high school or grade school kid.
But it's gotta be a much more basic spreadsheet that just has home value, last year, this
Well,
year, delta.
And you have to have more than home value, because there's a lot of people that just, it's acreage. We're having.
Property value. I used the
Farms
wrong
there.
word.
Property value.
Correct. I mean, I'm just hearing you guys talk about a $500,000 house.
Property.
Well, and that may be,
So
You know,
use the
right.
same equivalent of 10-4 per.
but I'm just
40,000.
saying that
Yeah,
there is a large portion of this township that is just acreage, that,
it's $10,400 of improvement.
I'm just saying,
per
you have to
40
think of
section.
that when you're doing your presentation.
Rob, I think what you said, that you just show how much is it per 100,000 assessed value. A lot of people can't read their tax bill. So just say and they can have all the assessed values listed there, people can go look at that day.
Well, we
And
should,
go look it up and say, what is my assessed value? That's 400,000. The taxes are gonna be so much per 100,000. I got 400,000, take it times 4, that's what my taxes are gonna be. Keep it simple.
I agree, and I think, one step further, you're saying, and I agree with you, Laura, I think we need to have a generic tax bill that has the different lines on the tax bill. And one of those lines is Town of Palmyra, where we just circle that and we show this generic tax bill. And this is the only portion of your tax bill that we're talking about. And then we show the slide, whether it's right then and there, but if we show them their tax bill, they can relate to that. And if there's 4 or 5 lines on that tax bill, and we indicate, highlight, or circle the town tax bill and show them it's just this part that's being impacted by this, and then we show them the numbers, the different property values, and what that equation is, I think that's gonna resonate with everybody.
Something like that's gotta be presented.
And we're assuming somebody's gonna show up, first of all. Last year was exceptional.
I don't expect to have any less than last year show up.
I think it will be.
That'll be less.
I really do. Last year was one of the few times I saw that many people from Blue Spring Lake show up.
I don't think I've ever been one.
No.
Yeah, I can't say that I sit here and hope it's less. I don't know what that's saying. It is gonna be what it is. I think we need to prepare ourselves for a large crowd, whatever that is. and
I agree.
Explain it.
Yeah,
And if it's
sure.
less, great. If it's more, great. I don't think we should worry about the size of the crowd, because everybody's welcome.
Right.
But last year, there were
Everybody's welcome to speak.
other things on the discussion besides just this. And that got a lot of people riled up to show up.
That's true.
So that's why I'm thinking it's gonna be less.
And that's, right.
And I can honestly say that most people had no idea what they were voting for at the end of the day.
They didn't.
Correct,
I bet you 50% of them did not.
correct.
Well,
I agree with that too, I
Correct.
heard that.
Yep.
if I remember right, there was a little bit of a, controversy is a strong word, at the end, because people were handing in their ballots
And didn't know what it meant.
before any of the discussion even started.
Correct.
Correct.
So we need to make sure this year that no vote is, that we go through all our discussions and our presentations before we even ask people to pick up their ballot. Might extend it, the meeting, but
Well,
I don't want people voting like they opened it up as soon as you walked in. If you wanted to fill it out then and drop it in, you could without even hearing the.
And it happened.
That did happen, correct.
I
well,
thought I remembered it correctly, thank you for backing.
Back to your question. Whether we do all tax, a mix of tax and debt service, or all debt service, I have a hard time believing that if we go in with a mix of debt service and taxes, that, and it gets voted down for whatever the reason, nobody wants to borrow money, okay, that could be a reason. Not that they're against the use, or maybe that they're not for the use, but if we go in with a mix of debt service and property tax, I have a hard time believing that we would be able to go back with all debt service or all tax without having an explanation issue one way or the other. I think we either need to put it all on debt service or all on taxes to say somewhere in the middle is where this would be, rather than shoot for the middle and then have to go one direction or the other.
I think that's fair.
That's my concern about presenting the budget with a mix of debt service, is that it becomes more convoluted yet to explain how can we borrow money, but the taxes are the same, but my taxes are going up because only part of what we're, that part of it, I think from a public messaging standpoint becomes even more problematic.
Was last year all debt service?
No, it was all taxes.
It was all tax, and then rather than going out and borrow,
It's all tax, okay.
they just put zero in the.
So if we go all tax this year,
Well, actually, it was fire.
we're basically doing the same thing, and it's only going up a small percent.
4 cents per
I
thousand.
agree.
So what's so bad about that?
I agree, my questions before were just really related to see where we all stood. I agree with your last comment, and I agree that I think we need to go via the tax levy initially.
Yes.
My issue with the 67% was it got voted down last year at 43 for a lot of reasons. Okay, let's not get into those again. But 67 is gonna be sticker shock.
well, that's where it has to be explained.
As long as we do the job we're talking about right now in explaining it and showing everything we're talking about, then I'm okay with it, because we'll be able to explain it, and it's actually not it is a 67% increase, but it's not a 67% increase over their 23 taxes. We also have to show them that math, because actually if we didn't borrow and we didn't tax levy anything, the levy would go down, okay? So all we're doing is and maybe that figure is 43 over this year, but we have to show it as 67. We have to explain that math
Right.
and why 67 is really 43, if 43 is the right number. I think that we have to show that as well.
If that don't work, we're gonna have to get together, we'll have to go with probably 100% debt service.
Let's worry about that when we cross that bridge.
Well, and like I said last night, if the absolute feedback, Mary Beth's point, is that nobody wants to spend money on the roads, it makes it super easy, then we don't. I mean, ultimately, that is the point of not only the levy exceedance, but also the budget adoption process is how does this mechanism work and what are the services that we're gonna provide? I mean, there's contractual things we can't change. Fire and EMS, garbage and recycling, those types of things we have to work around with whatever else would come up, but, I mean, nobody wants, I'll say not nobody, if the majority of the people that attend the meeting don't agree with spending money in various areas, they have a 100% ability to say no to it or to redirect it.
Right.
And at that point, then hope they do their homework.
Okay, so for the purpose of this, for the document, is 67, whatever the number of this, 67.469, is that the figure we're going to request?
Would be, correct?
If we're gonna stick with that presentation.
Which
So-
is 239,600? That, and does that get us 250 for the roads? Shouldn't we make it 250 and cover the other 11,000?
That does cover the.
It does.
Oh, that makes it zero? Okay.
Yeah, because so before we do this, just from the semantic side of invoices from Northwest Services, knowing what we got in email today, should we add that to our expectation for 2023? Because I can guarantee you what we said for 3 days rates was not what was in those invoices, because there were, I think, 4 days from September prior our October meeting.
So are these these are invoices from the emergency?
That was the final, right?
Are these the
Or was it-
invoices?
I don't know if that was the final. She just said new invoices. She did not say final.
I think it went through, did it go through the, I thought they had dates on those.
So what you're saying is we better throw 18,000 more into this budget?
23,
23.
not 12.
20.
Because we
But
need
what we do need to do is adjust what the revenue side would be on that 70% match, if that's what we're gonna be at.
So you want to increase,
Do you have the invoice?
Storm,
in a second.
Okay.
So,
Well,
emergency management.
this one here, you want it up it with the new invoices, which are, oops, not that. So this was 10/7?
I was gonna say, I thought there were 10/7 or 10/8 dates, which we put on the end of last week.
No. And that was 15/39.
Yeah, 10/7 was Saturday, so I'm hoping that.
And this was 9/21. So that's 2760.
1539 plus, what was that one?
2760.
2760.
And this was 10/6.
18362.
what is that for? The 18, is that Marsh Road?
907.
Yes.
This one? Marshall.
I'm the wrong line of business.
Yeah. And this one was,
2046.
that's it. 5 of them.
That's it?
Yeah, take those symbol off the end.
29614. I didn't put a lot of the decimal points in there.
Yeah, but no, stop for a minute. That 18,000 is for Marsh Road, which is not the emergency, or the tornado.
It wasn't?
Can I call them quick?
Why not?
That was- Well, it does have emergency tree down, but I don't think that is
That's Tamarack.
that's Tamarack.
Those, I think those are general services.
Yeah, because if they have storm, they say storm tree work on them. This one doesn't say it either.
Just do your phone.
Question, the $18,000 invoice, does that have anything to do with the tornado day?
Yeah, there's like that one. Okay. So,
Okay, so the rest of them are all storm damage.
So it's gonna be 11,252.
27.
Okay,
So only two of them are the storm.
okay, 2 of them are. Okay, very good, thank you.
This one wasn't, because he typically has, oh, sorry, that one would be, and it wasn't out at the top, so the 1539, let's make sure I'm at the top on all of them. That one is, that one is not. That one is, that is the 49. And then this one. So where they say storm tree work, so that's Young Road. That's that one. And that does say storm tree
Tree
work,
work.
Marsh Road, which is the 49. This one, that does not have any storm.
No, he said it doesn't have
The
anything.
18 doesn't.
Oh, we should track that 18,362.
And then the 27 is,
Yes,
and the 15 is. Yeah, so subtract the 18,362. So that would go.
11,253.
So the 18,362 would go into the tree service, and then what was the amount?
11,352.
So then on the revenue side, we get the emergency management one, if we're gonna do 70% of that is.
What are we gonna get it in 23?
no, we have 24.
Right, no, I know, that's
So you
what I'm
want-
saying.
You want 70% of the 69?
Correct,
Is that what that's what that match was gonna be, right?
right, 70%.
Yeah. 40, almost 49?
That goes into the
Revenue.
revenue on the 24 budget.
Yep.
So where does that put us at the end of 23?
To the good, like $10,317.
Can we see that?
Where do you want me to go?
The very income versus expenses for 23
917,
versus,
985.
so 917 it was.
Mm-hmm.
So we are down $68,000.
Which is essentially the reimbursement piece for that.
Right,
So that's all, no, that's
Not the reimbursement part,
That's 48, so we're still down 20.
Right.
Oh, we're getting-
The actual expense due to the tornadoes was 58,000 and some change.
60. So we're down 60, it was 68,000.
now we have to make the 10,317 go away.
Right. That's the one you have to do for this budget. But he was looking at 2023.
Right, I wanted to see whether we were positive or negative at the end of 23.
Yep.
And that's assuming there's no more trees down that Northwest has to go take care of. So if someone's not blocking the road, we probably should wait till next year to.
I talked to him today on Tamarack. There's literally trees just waiting to come down, you know that, Josh. We've been out there 5 times in the last 5 weeks. We just send them out there for 3 to 500, 3 to 500 every time.
3 to 500.
That's what he charges, when it happens on a Friday night or Saturday morning, right, Josh?
But if they're not blocking the road,
We're trying to prevent another 3 to 500, another 3 to 500, because of all these dead limbs that are hanging over the road. So, we touched on those today, and I simply told him, I want a daily calculation on it.
Well, should we build a little more into the balance of the year for them then?
Well, it's in the hole to begin with. I don't think that we, at this point, I don't think we budget backwards based off of something that isn't in front of us right now.
Okay, how do we get rid of the 10,317?
Raise it to 250 from 239, right?
You just take 10 off of that.
Minus?
Because you're in the positive.
I thought,
Oh, I
I
see.
thought, oh, it wasn't red.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Now what is the?
So 363, 302 goes in the number on that other spreadsheet then.
What number does?
363, 302.
But I gotta change that, hold on.
So when you get snow on those couple of trees, it has to come down because then it'll fall. So you have to do it anyway. So you might as well plan for it. I agree with Frank.
What do we got, 2.5 months to go, don't we?
You got 2 months of snow.
Hopefully not.
Well, it will not be from the tornado, so.
I'm dreaming of a dream. Just like the one we had last year.
All right, okay.
So what's that throw our mill rate looking like?
Where are you looking? Where is it?
Big fat whopping change in that one. 2 cents per thousand.
The numbers didn't change there, still 206, 2.065.
That's because that's what it was. That one changed.
Oh, the 272 was 276 before?
Hmm.
Just do a quick undo on your, let me scroll down.
Oh, yeah. Okay. It's 276,
Yeah.
No, it's
so it's
just.
349.
Now it's 272, okay.
So now the levy increase would be what?
Fun fact, guess what the
249.
proposed levy was for 2023? 272 per thousand. We're right back in the exact same Billy Goat boat. Where's Michael J. Fox when we need him?
So now what do we need?
A motion to adopt the resolution.
First we have to fill it out.
Oh, she fills it out. Well, I'm gonna make a motion that, we increase tax levy by 64 point, well, what did it say there?
Not that one.
Okay, where are we at on it?
So now we have to fill out the,
It's 64.564.
okay, so,
I gotta say, I really can't believe we came right down exactly to the same damn number.
Isn't that something for
I'm gonna
God's
get
sake?
rid of a couple things, so it makes it easier for me to. Okay. So the 3.222 stays the same. The 344, 375 stays the same. Lemon 9576 stays the same. 355, 131. Oh, that changes. Yep, that stays the same. Then we're going to say 64.564. Would increase the town levy by 229, 287. would be 636,301.
We gotta change the 10th to 17th.
Yeah, that's right.
But what-
Adopted this 10th day in October.
Yeah.
We missed a few.
Well, that was last year,
Oh,
except for the year. So, that's what it is.
So after we vote on this, between now and the meeting, we work on our presentation, is that correct?
if the resolution passes.
That's what I said after we vote on this. Well, yeah, and assuming that the resolution, the vote is positive.
Well, the first thing you have to do is come up with the documents you're gonna post 15 days before the meeting. So that's the first thing that has to be done. So we have to say, yep, this budget document we have is correct.
Yeah.
All the numbers are where we want it, looks good. Then there's a summary that I have to create, which now we've completely wiped it all out, so I'll have to go back through and figure out what goes where. And then we post the full budget, well, that budget spreadsheet and the summary, and then along with the resolution. So those things have to be posted by the 22nd, because I have a document where I wrote up the fact that if the posting is in the number of days, it's a calendar day. But if the posting is in the number of hours, you can't count Sundays or holidays. So
Right.
since it's 15 days, you have 15 calendar days.
And we said that was the 20th, right?
22nd.
22nd.
So,
Just from a curiosity standpoint, I think 2 meetings ago, we queried if there's a deadline. I'm just thinking worst case scenario here. If the levy adoption meeting fails on the 6th, and we have another 15 days, we could be on the 21st,
Deer hunting.
but,
Deer hunting?
yeah, well, government business doesn't wait for deer.
well, I know,
Somebody will
But
think
is
so.
there, I don't know, it all shuts down. Is there a deadline? I would assume that we would do the process the same as we did last year, and the same that was done last year, which was to have the levy exceedance special electors meeting followed by the budget hearing the same night, which essentially is what happened last time. And the budget would be obviously adopted or denied, one or the other, depending on what is going on, and then we would reconvene at some point, but.
So
Because
I know-
last year, wasn't it the 29th of November last year, that the budget was actually passed?
I don't know the date off the top of my head. I'd have to
So I
go
think,
through.
end of the story, I think we have a couple of days leeway that if,
Well, I can tell you that Jefferson County wants the garbage and recycling data back by November 15th. And then the municipal levy limit worksheet is due to the DOR by December 15th.
oh, okay.
But then that just says if you hold off later to later, people are gonna get their property tax bills later and later,
Mhm.
so.
Much like we did last night, is anybody sitting out in the crowd have anything they'd like to say?
Questions, comments,
I
concerns?
think all of your comments about education is where it's at. I mean, you know, being part of last year, not saying they weren't trying to educate, but people weren't listening. So if you can start the meeting by educating, I think that's the way you have to go.
Call their attention to the handout and go from there. Give them a few minutes to read.
I would agree. Going with Q&A right off the bat is probably not.
Boring.
is probably not.
You lose the crowd right away.
Advantageous. Well, not only that, is being able to gather people's attention back to, okay, now we're gonna go through the budget, I think is.
I think the simpler you keep it, the easier it'll be,
Yeah.
because people don't wanna crunch numbers, they don't wanna know how much per thousand, then they gotta sit and, if you're gonna take out a loan, our taxes will go up this much per 100,000. If you're gonna want a tax increase by this percent, our taxes go up this dollar amount per 100,000, they can figure that, and then you can have the tax roll there, people can go look it up and figure it out, or you can, simply give the example. Like I said, it's this much per 100,000, if your assessed value is 400,000, it's gonna be 4 times that amount. That they can do in their head, so. They need simple things, keep it simple, but
That's right.
The old kiss
Always the best,
But,
always
you know.
the best. And this is just a question, because I still don't fully understand the processes yet. Public comments. We can put it anywhere on the agenda, or it has to come up front?
Does not have to.
Okay. All right. And I agree that we need to get all of the explanation out there, and then,
So there's a little bit of a difference, is that it's a levy exceeds hearing, I believe, is the term, correct? So a hearing, there is rightfully so, the duly appointed citizenry that we have has the right during a hearing to speak to something that is being heard about
sure.
versus public comment being, it's essentially like, if we wanted to format it.
You said we can ask questions as we go?
No, well, my point is that, think of it as, I guess, an interview, right? You're the applicant and you're gonna address the county board, and you're gonna say, this is my project, this is what we've done, this is what we wanna do, blah, 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 blah. Are there any questions? And then the Q&A piece of it starts, whether it's up to them, one way or the other, as far as kind of that
Okay.
point counterpoint thing. I mean, I think to that point is setting an understanding of, please hold your questions till we're done, and then we'll do around the room and blah, 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 or whatever it's gonna end up being, so everybody knows.
So that they don't have to sign up to talk?
not at the budget.
Because it's
No,
more,
you're-
it's more the constituents meeting than the board's meeting.
The chairperson, you give each person in the room a chance to speak before they get to speak a second time.
Right.
So everyone gets a chance to speak, and you always ask any more questions, any more discussions. If there are any, then you go ahead with the vote.
You can limit that.
Yeah.
Right. You should be able to limit the time.
Which I think is probably a good idea, as long as it's a reasonable time.
2 minutes
I don't-
Usually 3 minutes is a good shot.
Or per person.
per person.
I thought you were messing around.
I don't think.
3 minutes, but you don't have to chop them off either. You can let it ride